Thank you for the opportunity. Today, we several times heard or repeated woman, life, freedom. I would like to also add to that the slogan the brave women of Afghanistan carried with themselves: freedom, education, work. So I would like you to repeat with me: woman, life, freedom.
Woman, life, freedom.
Freedom, education, work. As you can see, women of Afghanistan are asking for the basic fundamental rights that we across the world, and certainly in this beautiful room here, have taken it for granted. As I speak in front of you today, 17+ million women in Afghanistan are banned from speaking in public, from singing, from reciting, from talking to a man who is not their male relative or chaperone. As I was preparing for my speech today in front of you, like always, I consulted many women inside the country. I sent text messages on my social media. I had consultations. I asked them, what do they want me to emphasize? Because this is a unique opportunity for them. One of the women said, we often in the past 3 years feel that we are in a desert with nobody surrounding us. Sometimes when we hear the term woman of Afghanistan, we feel the wind is blowing in our face. So I urge you to keep this wind blowing. This is the minimum you can do to the woman of Afghanistan. A woman told me she had lost her husband in the war, an army officer. She has 3 children. She wanted to take her child to the hospital a week ago. She went out to take a taxi. No taxi driver would stop for her. The taxi driver was scared of being imprisoned for violating the vice and virtue paper of the Taliban. Finally, after 3 attempts, one taxi driver told her, my sister, I will help you, but you need to introduce yourself as my sister when the Taliban stop and exchange the father's name. Because they also ask, if you are the sister and brother, what is your father's name? She said, I paid 3 times more in a time that she doesn't have $1 income. It's not about the restriction. It's about the feeling of being less than a human, being controlled for your gender. That's inhuman. It's beyond imagination for you, but it's a life experience for every human being in Afghanistan today. As they continue to struggle, and today I have the honor of having 2 of the strongest women protesters. I ask you to stand up, please. Huda Khamosh. She was one of the first women who took to the streets to protest. Madina Darwazi, she spent 40 days in prison with her baby, for raising her voice. And only recently, they were able to flee to save their lives to Norway. They never wished to leave their country, like none of us ever wish to leave our country. They say nobody wants to leave their country unless your home is in the mouth of shark. Our home is now in the mouth of shark. But, thank you, ladies, but severe women's rights and human rights violation is not the only crisis people of Afghanistan suffer. In fact, they are the most severe human rights violation. Taliban have continued since the return to power to suppress women. They have issued 100 edicts banning women from secondary education, the right to work, the right to mobility, the right to go to the park, the right to anything that a woman do to make her feel as a human being. This is in contradiction to what Taliban said during negotiation, and in contradiction to what the world has portrayed a Taliban 2.0, We need to engage with them. I remember 3-4 years back when there was a protest or somebody was raising their voice against the negotiation with Taliban. In fact, there is a woman outside who is actually protesting against me for negotiating with the Taliban. She said, why did you negotiate with them? Then, if we were against the negotiation, we were called as against peace, people who are loving war. But today, we know that Taliban 2.0 was a narrative created for us. And we seem to believe it, and now we are trapped into that narrative. As I said, women's rights is not the only crisis in Afghanistan. Taliban believe either you feel and you think and you do what they do, you believe the same way they do, or you do not have the right to exist. They do not believe in coexistence. And that's what we have tried to do when we negotiated with them. We have tried to take them the message that Afghanistan today has transformed. Afghanistan today believes in equality. People in rural and urban Afghanistan want their daughters to go to school, want their sisters to be educated and to have a job and a life with dignity. This was the message I tried to take to the Taliban. And then they said, yes, women can be PhD holders. This is on the record. Women can have jobs, become prime minister. This is on the record from Taliban across the table telling us, but they were lying. On the contrary, when they came to power, the first thing they did, I was in Afghanistan, they banned women from secondary school because, and this is in contradiction with the principles of our religion. Our religion is about coexistence. They do this because they're afraid of women. An educated woman will never allow her child to pick up a gun, and Taliban will eventually lose the ground. They use women as a bargaining chip. Today, not only women, religious minorities, ethnic groups, linguistic groups, they are either pushed to the side or arbitrarily detained, they are killed, targeted killing, and people are left with two choices. Either they flee their country, a country that we had hoped so much and strive to be a different country, a country for everybody. Today, 8 million people from Afghanistan have left Afghanistan. This is official data. A migrant crisis in your borders. Or they're forcing people to pick up harder choice, to go to join other military forces and eventually endanger the global security. The world has ignored and tried to deliberately de-link the relationship between women's rights and security, between human rights and security. We think security is a standalone issue, and only by protecting our borders from a security perspective, we can secure our nation. This is a wrong perception, and that is the base for so many countries in the region that engage with Taliban, accept the credentials of Taliban, because they want to be safe. They often forget that there is a direct link between human rights, women's rights, and security. Lack of women in the job market paved the way for further economic hardship, led to grim humanitarian crisis. We know that jobs create hope and optimism. Hope and optimism are the strongest antidote to extremism. Education is the prerequisite for hope. Today, by banning women from education, the Taliban have killed hope among women and men in Afghanistan, paving the way for recruitment of many military extremist groups that could further endanger the global community. I think it's time for us, for the global community, to step back and fix our mistakes. We owe it to the people of Afghanistan. We owe it to that beautiful country, to the women, to the peace-loving women and men of Afghanistan. I think it's a time for the global community to step back and see where they have made a mistake. I would like to urge the world to reassess their unprincipled and continued engagement that has resulted no change on the situation of people in Afghanistan. I'm not against engagement, but it has to be defined with principles. What is it that we want to achieve? Is it only our economic and security interest, or is it also for the people and for the women of Afghanistan? I think it's time for the world to make the accountability mechanisms work before it's too late for the Global South to believe that all these claims of human rights, women's rights, are just a slogan. We need to make the accountability mechanisms work. And therefore, we need to make sure that gender apartheid is recognized as a crime against humanity. And here, when I speak about gender apartheid, I don't mean to use a political slogan. I am pro-engagement, I am pro-peace. I have negotiated with Taliban when my hand was in cast by the bullet of Taliban. But I think we need to give this message to our children, to our next generation, that the international accountability mechanisms, the law and order, is responsibility of every one of us. And therefore, apartheid is actually happening in Afghanistan. Aparting women for their gender from any sphere is apartheid. Pressure, a legal pressure, will not only make the Taliban accountable, but make those who believe that power is for them to misuse accountable to our human rights principles. I'm often asked, and this is the question I also ask the women of Afghanistan, what keeps you going? Because when I talk to them, their faces are always in smile. When I talk to their fathers and brothers, I know that they are suffering. I know that they are suffering from mental health crisis. Because what does it feel, or how does it feel when you wake up in the morning and you only look at the window of your house and look the beautiful world from the small window of your house and sleep with no hope? How does it feel? For once, I would like to invite all of you to put your feet in the shoes of those men and women, the fathers and the mothers and the girls of Afghanistan. I tell them often, what keeps you moving? They tell me, the Taliban are brutal. They have a lot of power by having the guns and weapons, often left to them by the international forces that fled Afghanistan. But they tell me that they're more powerful because their cause is a cause of better world, that they stand on the principles of equality, and their voice is much more stronger than any bullet. We must stand with them. We must stand in the right side of history. We will prevail. Thank you. Thank you.